color contrast on the web. So this is a really core issue in accessibility for people with disabilities and sight impairments to accessing the web. So, if we look at a very basic level, indicating UI state changes with color, that's a big no-no. And just having things at a certain color grade that people can actually see and look at that, and understanding which colors are good and which colors are bad. Should you use opacity, what level of opacity, and most importantly, which two colors work well against one another. And that is the core bit of color contrast. Which colors work against one another and which colors, when they're used with one another, cause problems. Now, there's a multitude of ways to tackle these issues. There's many tactics. For example, some people just don't use a secondary color. So if you use a primary and a secondary color in a theme, some people just do away with a secondary color. And what they have, instead of having a color to indicate hover states, scroll bars, another kind of secondary color variations in your UI, they just use a neutral color. So, some variation of gray. Now, the issue with using grey is that you fall into the problem of contrast. And this is what we'll be talking about today. So contrast is, how does this colour contrast with another colour? And there's a multitude of ways of testing that. So you could test that with, if you're using Chromium, you could use your DevTools. You simply hover over with your DevTools open on an element or a bit of text, and it will come up with a pop-up that gives you a contrast ratio or a contrast check. So if you've ever hovered over anything with your DevTools, you'll notice there's a little section that says accessibility in a box, and in it we'll have lots of different types of information. One of those being color contrast. And that's one very simple, very quick way of checking color contrast. The other way is having bigger tools like Wave, which is a free tool for checking accessibility. You can run that on the top of your site. It's just an extension, and it will check your entire site for a multitude of issues, including color contrast. And it's one that I use quite a lot. So you've got your tools, and if you're a designer, you can use the native add-ons and tools in Figma to check for accessibility, which is always really good. Or use some kind of contrast checker on the web. So if you've got two hex colors or two RGB values you want to check against one another, you can do, and you can see whether they contrast well against each other. Now, in terms of accessibility, we have to understand that there are different requirements. So if we think about requirements, if you think about WCAG 2.1 standards for AA are different to AAA. So AAA has a much higher standard and AA has a slightly lower standard, but still, fairly robust. You can get away with larger ranges on AA, but AAA is very much, this is what is accessible. Do these colors work against each other? Are they legible for a wider range of people with sight impairments? So that's the difference between AA and AAA. So it goes without saying, obviously AAA is a bit more strict. Now, there are a few more tools that are free and easy to use. So if you use Storybook, for example, to test your components on your front end, or if you use it to demo your components, they have add-ons that you can put in. So accessibility checkers and contrast checkers that you can use within Storybook. You've got Lighthouse, which everyone with Chrome basically has, or a Chromium browser such as Brave, Opera, and stuff like that. So you could use Lighthouse to basically scan through for accessibility, and it'll tell you where you fail on your contrast. All in all, I think that would be enough to arm yourself with being able to tackle color contrast in your app. I will leave some links down in the description for tools and sites to check out. That should help you on your color contrast accessibility journey. But the best thing to do is go and read the AA and AAA accessibility standards, and they'll give you a brief summary of what they're trying to aim for in both. And depending on that, maybe you can decide what you want to aim for in your project. So yeah, my name's Harry, and I'll catch you in the next one.